I'm sorry, I need to look at the kitty for a second because I'll get distracted.
You can watch breathing when it's playing.
Because it's breathing and it's so nice. Hi everyone.
Hello guys. I'm surprised again. I'm Waldemar.
I'm Weronika.
And today a video from a channel that we have never seen before, and a video that we have never seen before. How US Thanksgiving wasn't what I expected. And it's a new video. Weronika found this out just a couple of minutes ago.
Just looking up Thanksgiving actually, because I wanted to learn a little bit more about it, and I thought, well, why don't we want to?
Yeah, I spent today, maybe not all the day, but significant portion of time looking for videos where you burn the chicken when you are deep frying it, and then you have fire everywhere in your garden.
I didn't know this was the case, and I kind of wish I didn't know. But it's just not the process of frying it, but the process of dying in the process. Yeah.
Interesting day. I hope it's delicious, and it kind of looks delicious, and I would like to try it. It looks unhealthy as hell, but looks tasty.
Yeah.
But the number of accidents that I saw was like. But I'm not judging, every country has their own people who could be nominees for the Darwin Award. We have this every year when there is a New Year's Eve. We have people with fireworks, and it's a day when most people lose their limbs. This is the night when people in the hospitals are waiting like this, surgeons, nurses, and all night people are coming without fingers.
I am not so sure that's just a Polish finger from.
No, it's mostly European, but I don't. Yeah, every country where fireworks are sold so easily to everyone. But yeah, we don't have fires as often. But fortunately, we don't have any holidays when people play with the hot oil.
Yeah, we also, of course, don't do Thanksgiving, so we don't know much about it. I just know that it was last Thursday.
Yeah, I only know about the turkey. I know you ate turkey. You eat turkey.
And you pardon a turkey.
Yeah, there is something like that.
The president pardons turkey.
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe they don't do it anymore. I don't know.
Trump is like, no pardon for him, no mercy, as long as I am your king. Right.
Especially if those are imported turkeys, because they are immigrants. Okay, let's find out about Thanksgiving.
As somebody who grew up 4,000 miles from my current home, the only frame of reference I had for the American life I now live was American TV and film. In the 80s, much like today, these infiltrated Britain in much the same way British music infiltrated America. As a child, I was in love with the Goonies, not to mention Andy from the Goonies. I watched Back to the Future 47 times in the same week. And then at some point, in the late 80s, I was introduced to a very specific American comedy. Now for context, you have to understand that back then, my dad used to go on business trips to London. And this was always quite exciting because it meant he'd return with a mystery VHS. Following a successful track record of delivering eye-popping entertainment, my dad apparently decided on a different approach with an American movie that I did not recognize.
Planes, Trains and Automobiles, said my very English dad. It's about a bloke who's trying to get home for, I think they call it Thanksgiving. It's meant to be right funny.
Given that I was expecting Karate Kid...
Wasn't it the same guy that gave a lift to Kevin's mom in Home Alone?
Oh, possibly, yeah.
He looks like that.
My disappointment was palpable, and so the tape lay dormant until I was bored one Sunday afternoon. I put it on, and sure enough, my dad was right. It was funny, to the extent that my best friend and I used to copy the bit where Steve Martin says the F word 18 times. Sorry, Mum, if you're just learning about that. But after several watches, there was one question that kept popping into my head. What on earth is Thanksgiving? Well, 20 years later, after moving to the United States, I found out firsthand, and it wasn't what I was expecting.
I'm very emotionally
The first
invested.
surprise is that Thanksgiving wasn't simply another word for Christmas.
And I know to Americans that might sound weird because Thanksgiving isn't Christmas. But the film gave me more than one reason to believe that it was. Firstly, they're driving around in lots of snow, which in Britain is a fairly rare event, but if it does occur, it usually does so in winter and not autumn. I have since realised and was reminded just the other day that in the American Midwest, thick snow in November, or Snowvember, is not uncommon. He loves it. Look at him. He's so excited. Are you going to run around, Arthur? Are you going to run around? Secondly, in the film, while Steve Martin's wife is waiting for him to come home, I believe there's a quick shot of her lighting a candle, which we're not going to do right now because there's a cat here and I'll probably burn him. But that...
I should say I expected more like a list of things about Thanksgiving from this video than a personal story, but there's something so interesting about this that like while we are recording, but also if I was watching this on my own, I would keep watching. I don't know, I'm just intrigued.
It's very cozy, you know?
Yeah.
When you look at those furnitures and there is a cat, there is the dogs, and there are some pumpkins and the candles, and everything is wooden. Yeah. It's so cozy. You want to just sit and listen to a story about Thanksgiving.
With this winter feel, made it appear like a cheap Christmas card. Thirdly, Steve Martin's wife pulls from the oven a giant turkey, and that is not a euphemism. Turkey, of course, in Britain is mostly synonymous with the Christmas meal, and so this was a huge reason that I think for the first 26 years of my life, I thought Thanksgiving on the one hand and Christmas on the other were actually one and the same. But it turns out that not only is Thanksgiving not Christmas, it takes place in November. Specifically, the fourth Thursday in November. It didn't help that Steve Martin lived in a huge house in the Chicago suburbs, because that makes me think of one thing: Home Alone, which is a Christmas movie. Anyway, speaking of two films that featured the late great Sir Jonathan Candy, that brings us on to this. I didn't know it yet, but America was not alone in celebrating a holiday of this very name.
Did you know?
I mean, cut me some slack, I barely knew that America did. Because as I've been doing this channel over the years, I've discovered that there are Canadians in the world, and they watch. Hello. And usually, whenever I do any kind of Thanksgiving-themed content, I get those really polite comments that are along the lines of, Lawrence, you disgrace. You forgot about Canadian Thanksgiving again, so I'm inserting it into this video to appease you. John Candy, the greatest Canadian, after Bret the Hitman Hart, would not have celebrated Thanksgiving the same day as his character in Planes, Trains and Automobile.
I'm sorry, I need to look at the kitty for a second because I'll get distracted.
you can watch breeding when it's playing.
Because it's breathing and it's so nice.
Turns out that Canada does theirs on the second Monday in October. And given that Canada also does Boxing Day, if you took all of the North American holidays, the holiday season would never end. It would be 3 solid months of eating and vomiting. Before I knew better, I never once questioned the inherent meaning of Thanksgiving, that we gather to celebrate the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ and open lots of presents. But during my first Thanksgiving party, which happened about 2 weeks after I moved to the United States, it became clear at that point that this was in addition to Christmas, and so I was quickly onto the business of eating, but also asking these friends and family members at the table, what's all this about? And this was...
Yeah, I think I heard something that you are... It's the tradition from your first people that settled in the United States, and that they were thankful and for the opportunity that they have, or something like that, and it was just a tradition of being thankful. Okay,
that sounds really nice though. I mean, I always like the idea that like you tell people what's required.
Yeah, I really like American traditions about celebrating your holidays. They are really nice. Like your Independence Day, you know, you have a grill.
But they have everything. They have the Independence Day, like you say, with the colorful fireworks, and they have proper Easter with the hunting for the eggs, which we never really did in Europe. We just copied it from America.
Maybe, I don't know.
With the like chocolate egg hunt.
I think it's copied, but I don't know.
And Halloween.
I don't want to piss anyone. Like they will be like Scottish people. Like, hey, what about us?
Okay, in Central Europe, which is only Poland, because but in Central Europe we copied it from America or somewhere else, and then they have Halloween, which is amazing, and they have Thanksgiving, and they have Christmas. So that's like 6, I think.
Yeah,
that's a lot of really nice holidays.
All very nice. Like, can you compare if you have a time? American Independence Day with the Polish Independence Day, for example. Polish Independence Day is all about, you know, flags, and those red fireworks, and everyone is like, oh.
Yeah, making sure your kid doesn't go out onto your balcony if you live too close to the city center.
Yeah.
Just sit close to the house. Yeah.
And you are like, oh, we are happy to be Americans. It's so nice to eat sausage and grilling with the family, and that's how holidays should be.
I agree.
A college campus, so for them it was about getting drunk. But, you know, after a few solid pints, I managed to get out of them that the day is all about giving thanks. The clue is in the name. It's about giving thanks for this bountiful harvest of food that we have
Oh, okay.
at this table, or just in America. I'm not going to do a deep dive on the history of this, but what I am going to do is just give you my observation of how Americans display that gratitude. I don't think I've been to a single Thanksgiving family meal with her family and not sat there while another family member, usually a bloke, I don't know why that is, says, let's say grace. So I do. Grace. And at that point, everybody in the room looks at me and says, shut up, you clown. And they, you know, basically thank the Lord for all of this wonderful food that we are about to eat to excess. But I think it's more than that, because I think that something that I suppose we never got to see in Planes, Trains and Automobiles is the actual event, the sitting around the table, because Thanksgiving is a joyous occasion. And I don't know that that's just because people feel extra thankful that day, or if it's this. It's a holiday with very little pressure, unless you're the one cooking all the food, then there's a lot of pressure. But unlike Christmas, you don't have to buy presents for anybody, so that's nice. And because it falls on a Thursday, some employers might even give their employees the Friday off, so therefore you get a 4-day weekend, which is a bloody rare thing in America. In Britain, this exact scenario plays out if indeed Christmas and Boxing Day are immediately before or...
What is a Boxing Day, you know?
Boxing Day is the 22nd. 26th, I'm sorry.
Oh, December.
Mm-hmm. And it's in Britain, it's a very big shopping day. So the shops are open usually on the 26th, whereas in Poland it's a bank holiday, so they are closed, and you are supposed to have extreme sales
Boxing
on that day.
I wonder, because the 26th of December in the Catholic Church is a remembrance of I don't know what his name is in English. It's something on S, I guess. In Polish it's Szczepan. But it's the guy who was the first martyr of the Catholic Church, of a Christianity, to be honest, to be specific. And he was put to death with the stones. You know, they throw stones at him until he died.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it's related somehow to Boxing Day. I guess not, but...
Yeah, What? Sorry, I lost you for a second.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, sorry, that was a really good joke and I lost you.
That wasn't a joke. It wasn't a joke. It was just... Let's continue.
after the weekend. In either case, in my experience, you'll probably spend those 4 days eating turkey sandwiches. And while we're on the subject of meat, a YouTube sensation like me needs all the fuel he can get for creating the second best videos on the internet. That's why I'm using today's sponsor, Good Chop. Good Chop delivers boxes of high-quality proteins to your door on your schedule. And something that pleased me was that the food came vacuum-packed, which is useful for those of us with tiny freezers. And perhaps as a warm-up to the turkey that I'll be eating on Thanksgiving, and the day after Thanksgiving, and the day after Thanksgiving, I instead opted for pork. I seasoned it with a few herbs, or herbs to Americans, and placed it into the oven until the internal temperature reached around 160. It came out smelling delightful, and as a wise man once said, if in doubt, always follow your nose. So I did. No, I mean it when I say this. It was about the best...
That is not cooked.
No. Maybe he's not the best cook in the world. But what he is cooking?
Turkey?
I hope not.
Pork, no, yeah.
Cooked. If you're someone who wants convenient but exceedingly well-prepared meat at an affordable price, Good Chop's prices start at $3.32 per portion. Go to goodchop.com/YouTube and use code LOSTPOND130 or click the link in the caption below.
I don't think he got the money from the sponsorship. They said like, no.
The premise of Planes, Trains and Automobiles is, of course, a send-up of actual US travel patterns around Thanksgiving. According to AAA, around 80 million Americans travel at least 50 miles at this time of year. And routinely, I'm one of them. Suppose that's what happens when you start your American
What a
life in
kitty.
Indiana and then move to Chicago and leave behind a lot of family members that you inherited. Well, this kind of thing, I've come to find, is the reality for a lot of Americans. And so, like Steve Martin's character, they might use all manner of transport to try to get where they need to go. Now, admittedly, most of the time, we will drive those hundreds of miles in a car. But one time, when we were less rich, we used Megabus. And there was something profoundly disappointing about that. It's that the people on the bus didn't start singing the theme tune to the Flintstones, which happens in Planes, Trains and Automobiles.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones.
Now, in hindsight, this is sort of weird because if anyone's going to break out into song, it is Americans. I pointed out in my recent road trip video that this is a fairly common occurrence with inside the walls of a car. Do cars have walls? I don't know. But in my experience, this sort of thing doesn't happen on buses. Largely because nobody wants to be there and we're all terrified of strangers. Happy holidays. But when it comes to travelling for the holidays, I think Planes, Trains and Automobiles did get one thing right. And that's that American trains are unreliable.
You have like 6 trains in the whole country and they are unreliable? Like, how can you not coordinate 6 trains? You have basically like two lines like that, 2 lines like that. So 4 trains, or 8, because one is going the other way.
What I'm about to say is a spoiler for a 37-year-old film. So if you haven't seen Planes, Trains and Automobiles, put me on mute for 20 seconds and don't be tempted to lip read. At the end of the movie, Steve Martin takes a lonely John Candy back to his huge house in the Chicago suburbs. And when they get there, the family is so happy to see them. Paul Young is playing in the background and it's just a rousing finish to the film. There's just one problem. Where are the other 20 people, Steve? I mean, I know you turned up late, so maybe they all left. But my experience is if you've got a house as big as that, you'll have cousins, second cousins, some guy named Todd that nobody recognises. Because Americans, much more than the British, like to go all out when it comes to invitations. On the one hand, it can be overwhelming for introverts such as myself. On the other, it does give me more people to turn to when my wife's cousin Chad tries to get me to look at his comic collection. Had I known the full extent of a Thanksgiving meal, I might have overcome my Christmas confusion much sooner. But it seems to me that Steve Martin's wife's turkey, again, not a euphemism, was in fact a ruse. Because when you take into account some of the other food items that are common at a Thanksgiving dinner table, there's not really a lot of crossover with British Christmas at all. Firstly, there's no Christmas pudding, obviously. And instead of mince pies, you have one of either pecan pie, my favourite, pumpkin pie made out of real pumpkins and not whatever the hell this travesty is from Target, or sweet potato pie, or about 100 other pies. And sure, as I told YouTube sensation Evan Edinger the other day, you know, I gave up added sugar, I'm not going to eat this with you. But back when I wasn't, pies contribute heavily to making this my favourite of the American holidays. And then there's the sides. I remember sitting around a table not dissimilar to this, and my wife said, I want stuffing, which left me mortified until I realised she meant the food. So I passed her stuffing, to which she said, that's not stuffing, that's oyster dressing. The stuffing is on the far side of the table. Well, they look the same to me. What is this? I've never heard of oyster dressing. Well, it turns out I should have. Oyster dressing, a bread-filled dish typically enjoyed in the South and by at least one family in the Midwest, actually originated in Britain. The first known reference to oyster dressing can be found in a 1685 edition of the...
Oh, so they have tasty food in Britain. They just forget about it.
Actually, I never complained about the cuisine in Britain.
No.
No, it's very fatty, but so is the Polish cuisine. So I think I don't really get this stereotype.
Hey. Be respectful towards the Polish cuisine because it's
No, it's amazing, but it is also very greasy. So I'm saying this aspect, I think I was used to it. Of course, Polish cuisine is better.
Not as greasy.
Yeah, but not bad.
A cookery book by the English chef Robert May. Anyway, the recipe, then a mixture of oysters, bacon, herbs and spices, was brought to North America by British colonists, first showing up in American print more than a century later in Amelia Simmons' American Cookery. Suffice to say, the stuffing or dressing that I've had in the United States is usually quite a lot different to the stuffing that I had in Britain. Partly that comes down to texture, but secondarily, it comes down to the shape. Back in Britain where I come from, it was not uncommon to have stuffing balls, which that is a euphemism. However, in the US, stuffing is often not as congealed, a sort of bread-heavy free-for-all inside a casserole dish, themselves more prevalent in US kitchens than British ones. I'm probably generalising heavily with everything I've said in this video, but for the most part, that's been my experience.
Oh, it's funny how life works out. 35 years after I first laid eyes on planes, trains and automobiles, I've come to appreciate it on a level my childhood brain couldn't have comprehended. Not only have the things listed in this video become annually ingrained into my life, but as fate would have it, I too now live in a suburb of Chicago. It's just that my house is marginally smaller than Steve Martin's. And so I suppose that I'm thankful for life imitating art. But I'm also thankful for my late father for deciding in a moment of clarity not to buy Karate Kid 2. So let me know in the comments what you're thankful for, and until next time, goodbye.
I can say what I'm not thankful for. I just had this realization at the end which left me mortified.
Yes.
You know Steve Martin, the actor that he was talking about? Like,
Yeah.
for me, in my mind, because I remember movies with Steve Martin, and in my mind, Steve Martin is a guy around the same age as the guy in this YouTube video. And the guy in the YouTube video remembers those movies when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And so Steve, I don't even want to check how old is Steve Martin right now.
Sorry.
Uh,
Are you thankful you're not yet as old as Steve Martin?
Depends when you are watching this video.
Alright, well this was really an interesting one because this video was not at all what I expected.
Yeah, very, very different. I expected
great.
some comparisons,
Yeah.
some quick cuts.
But it was really great and I like this guy. I don't know why, but I want to be friends and I want to be friends with his cat as well. Yeah, but it was nice.
You
It
want
was,
to be friends with him because of the cat.
Yes.
And also here the dog, if you don't remember.
yeah, but it was funny, it was entertaining. We learned a little bit, but it was so different.
Yeah, I won't try those foods.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I want to go to United States someday, and I think it's the main reason, is the food. And
What
I
about
want
the
to
Harry
go-
Potter
I
world
want-
and Disney World?
you can have Harry Potter World in London, and you can have those food and also the shopping with all those delicious foods. Wait, not healthy foods, but foods. When I'm saying foods, food.
Food.
Sorry, why are you not correcting
Dishes.
me? Why are you not correcting me?
Well, I'm not going to correct you on
I'm
camera.
not ashamed of this.
I'm not going to correct
I
you
mean,
on
I'm
camera.
ashamed of making mistakes. But
No, you shouldn't be ashamed of making
But you
mistakes.
can tell me that I'm saying foods.
Can you tell Waldemar
like
that
some-
his
like
English is
some-
not bad
yeah,
at all? Because we
foods.
have this expression.
Foods.
Oh my god, you made a bad mistake. Oh my god. Horrible. Awful. How dare you?
Let's
Dishes.
pull down the curtain on this
Bye.
shameful performance.
Can we watch something else from this guy a couple of weeks down the line?
No. Bye.